Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Locker Room Podcast. This is a podcast that features and showcases a new West Liberty student athlete every single week. As always, we are sponsored by Permani Brothers at the Highlands, and I am your host, Kelsey Kyle. So, just to start off this episode, I just want to thank everyone that's either watched or listened to any of our episodes so far that we've done. We actually have hit over 1,000 streams on all of the different platforms, and that just means so much to me and everyone here at West Liberty for people to just take their time to watch and listen to these student athlete stories. Um, we actually recorded this episode last week since it was the last week that students were on campus before winter break. And then we're also pre-filming this intro because I'm going on vacation and just getting ready for Christmas as well. So some of the sporting events that take place between the time that we're recording and the time the podcast episode comes out might not be mentioned in here, but make sure that you're just following along on hilltoppersports.com and our social medias to keep in touch with everything that's going on. I just want to give, like I said, a big thank you to everyone that's watched, and then also a big thank you to everyone at West Liberty that's helped make this possible. I want to give a shout out to our producer, Logan Watson, because you guys don't see it, but behind the scenes, he's the one that's filming all of the episodes and editing them to get them to where they are for you guys to watch at home. So shout out to him and everyone else that's making this possible, because I've really loved just getting to talk to the student athletes and then get to bring their stories to you all. Also, before we get into today's episode, I introduced Nyia as a one-time All-American, and since we filmed that part of the podcast, she actually has been named as an All-American for the second time in her career. So that's the first big update, is Nyia is now a two-time All-American. Also, just following up with the updates, our men's basketball team beat West Virginia State in a really close game this past week, and our wrestling team won at the Finley Duel, and Francesco Borsellino was named MEC Wrestler of the Week. All right, I hope everyone enjoys today's episode. We're taking a 2-week break before students come back after the first of the year, so I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and then enjoys today's episode. All right, so the introduction for today's guest could be pages long, but I'm going to keep today's short and simple. So today I have with me Nyia Setla. She is a 4-time MEC All-Conference selection, 2-time All-Region selection, 2-time MEC Libero of the Year, and an All-American. She also is only the third person in program history to record over 2,000 career digs. Welcome to the podcast, Nyia.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So typically at the beginning of every episode, we just go back to the beginning of your sports career in your life. So why don't you just go ahead and tell me when you started playing volleyball, how old you were, and kind of how you got started with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually went to a Catholic school growing up, and so my best friend started playing, and I kind of aspired to be a part of this atmosphere that everyone was working together. And so she had taught me, Caroline Gallagher, she taught me how to underhand serve and pass the ball, and we were just in the play yard just messing around, and then all of a sudden, 5th grade, I was old enough to join a team, and that was when kind of everything started.
That is so cool. So it just went from like playing around with a friend and then turned into like something real.
Absolutely.
So whenever you started playing in 5th grade, did you start playing like for your school, or where, like what was the first team that you played for?
Yep, or it was St. Dominic's. There were probably 20 girls on a team, and we all just wanted to have fun. And then as we grew up, we started becoming more competitive, and everything kind of just jump started from there. I had joined Club Solano. That was my first travel team. Before I had moved. This was in California, and then I had moved to Michigan just before high school, and I joined a Legacy volleyball club, and that's where really everything kind of started.
Oh wow. Okay. So like back whenever you first started like thinking about volleyball, that was in California?
Yes.
Okay, so then you said you moved to Michigan before high school?
Yep.
Okay, so you like played with those same like girls in middle school, and then you moved and then you started on your new team?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh wow. Okay, that's awesome. So whenever you got to your high school in Michigan, did you start playing there like for your school, and did you also play for like a different travel team, or like what was that like once you got to high school?
Yep. We played in the fall. Our season was we started actually, tryouts were in July, and then we had practices all through the summer. And then, similar to how college is kind of here now, we played in all throughout August and November. And then December was kind of wrapping up everyone's seasons. And then that's where we had our club practices. And then that entire spring was club season. And so
Okay.
every weekend was tournaments. And yeah,
Did you play with a lot of the same girls like for your high school and on your travel team?
we were actually a good mix. I
Okay.
was only one of a few girls within my area. A lot of girls were just all over the state. A lot of girls were willing to travel, whether that be 20 minutes to a practice or an hour and a half to a practice.
Oh wow.
So we were everywhere.
Yeah. So what was that like at like the age that you moved to go from like life in California to life in Michigan, like right before going into high school?
Yeah, it was very different. Especially going from a Catholic school to a public school,
Yeah.
I had honestly no idea what I was getting into because the everything was so small and intimate back in California. And then going to a student population of 3,000 kids, it was definitely crazy. But it was nice to go into a volleyball team. And um, because I had transitioned into, like, just after Thanksgiving of 8th grade, I had been familiar with a couple of the girls that I met in that middle school transitioning into high school, so it was nice to have a group to go into. Um, but yeah, it was definitely a transition for
Big
sure.
change.
Yeah.
So then as you're in high school, you're playing volleyball for your school, you're traveling playing volleyball. When did you start to think like, okay, like I would like to continue this on and play in college?
I was definitely fortunate to have really competitive coaches as a young age, and something that they wanted to make me better, not only as a player, as a person. And I was like, okay, you know what? I could actually see myself taking this to the next level. And because I was able to balance school and volleyball at the high school level, granted, college is very, very different.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like I could see myself doing this at another level.
Yeah.
So they were gifting me with a bunch of resources and how that whole recruiting process worked, because they were invested in all of their athletes at that high school age. And yeah,
So whenever you kind of like started looking into colleges and like looking at your different options, when did you first find out about West Liberty?
if I'm being completely honest, had no idea what West Liberty was. I was definitely really excited with a school being interested in me. I had sent a million emails to other coaches, and they were the ones that really kind of stuck out. And I said, you know what, why not? We'll give it a shot. And we had been exchanging emails, phone calls, and we set up a visit to come out here. And it was my mom, my dad, and I, and we had drove down, and it was definitely not what Northville, Michigan is like. And I kind of liked it. I was open to change, and we took that trip. It was colder because I remember bringing a jacket, and it was I got to meet the whole team. I sat down and I met with the business professor, and I had dinner with the team and then practice later on. And it was definitely an amazing experience.
Yeah, was that like your junior or senior year of high school? Do you
My
remember
junior
when?
year
Or
of high
junior
school.
year?
Yep.
Okay. So after you first came and looked at West Lib, like were you still looking at like other schools, kind of narrowing down your option? Or I guess how long after that first visit when you came here did you decide and like commit to coming here?
West Liberty was really the only school looking at me.
Oh
I
wow.
actually was kind of putting it to the side to potentially look at other schools, but my club director was like, "Nah, there are several kids who turned down their original opportunities and they regret it instantly." And I said, "You know what? They really want me. Everything was going well with all the conversations and visits and everything." And so I had committed, I believe, in March. And that's where I was like, you know what? This is what I want to do for the rest of my life, or 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was March of your junior year?
Yes.
Oh wow, that's awesome. And then that probably helped too for like your senior year so you didn't have to like stress out
Oh,
about
it was so
making
much nice.
decisions.
Yes, absolutely. Especially now looking back at it when COVID had happened and everything had shut down completely, like knowing that I had a secure spot in my like recruiting process and my commitment, like that was a weight lifted off my shoulders.
So whenever COVID initially hit, was that your senior year of high
Yep.
school?
Yep.
Wow. So then I'm trying to think, was your senior year like 1920?
My yes, yeah, 1920. Yep.
Okay, so like you got to play your fall season.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so
And
then it affected like your graduation and stuff like that.
yep, I even remember
Okay.
my last day of club practice. We were at the Sterling Heights location and we were doing a hard drill, and I was exhausted, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna work really hard. We'll just wrap this drill up. And I remember looking over, and one of my previous club coaches had to leave the gym because of a school emergency, because he's also a teacher at the high school, and they had been trying to figure out all the details of what they were going to do with their curriculum for the rest of the year, because no one knew what was happening. So yeah.
That's crazy. So it probably was such like, I don't know, like you said, like a weight off your shoulder and just such a blessing that you decided earlier so you did not have to deal with that after everything happened.
Absolutely.
So then let's talk about a little bit with like transitioning to college, because especially now, like your year, it's always a big transition and it's always a big change whenever you come to college. But you came to college like in the middle of the pandemic.
Yes.
So you come here and then that fall you didn't even get to play.
We had no idea what was going on. I honestly, Kaya Sadlowski, she was my club teammate before coming here. So I was really fortunate to know her before rooming and coming in here, because I would have been completely isolated on my own. We lived in Boner Hall, and the number of Zoom calls of everything changing. I remember Coach Riley, she would have daily updates of what we were going to do, not even by the week, by the day, of what the protocol was, or what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do, and what kind of exposure can we do. And everything was unknown, and we were just waiting for the next text to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about that first season, since you played like a shortened or like a smaller season in the spring. What was that like finally after going through all of the craziness? What was it like playing volleyball for the first time in college?
It was definitely unreal. We kind of were like, okay, getting used to not having anybody in the gym, not having anybody watch, except everything being online and live streamed. We were wearing masks at the time, and we had to play in them. And I will still tell you, I was in the best shape of my life at that time, because it was really hard to adjust to even the bench being separated and spaced out and running across the court like that. And just we knew that this was just going to hopefully be the one season that we have to sacrifice everything for this. But we had known that this entire fall and the spring that we'd been training for this is what we wanted. And even if it's just the 10 games that we're allowed, this is the dream.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So then, so that was your first year. You've just finished your fourth season.
Yep.
So talk about a little bit what it was like coming back off of that like shortened first season into like your sophomore and junior year. Like what were those seasons like whenever you got to have like your full regular like preseason and then actually like playing your like real time in the fall?
Yeah, we kind of wanted to just start something new. We didn't really know what we were going into with the whole COVID year and with the modifying of all our games, and we just wanted to play. We wanted to just soak it all up, like have a first experience having a fall season. We had only met half the teams in the spring, so we kind of just wanted to just have an open mind with everything. And it was definitely an eye-opening experience, just because of all the games we had to play. We're going from 10 games to now almost 25 games the next season. So we had worked extremely hard over the summer and the fall. And yeah, we just wanted to take it day by day. That was kind of the motto after only having a certain amount of practices and games, is let's be grateful for the extra games we get and the extra practices,
like every single day,
everything we get together. And yeah, for the next 2 seasons, even now, our mottos is being grateful for the time and respecting what we have, because especially our class, we know what it's like not to have
to like have it taken away.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, I love that. So I want to talk about last season a little bit before we recap all of this year. So last season, I feel like I don't feel like it was a very monumental year.
Yeah.
It was the first time in program history that you guys made it to the regional tournament. You had a fantastic career or a fantastic season. What was that like? And maybe what do you think made it different starting out last season and then transitioning into this year?
It was definitely an oh my gosh moment. Like when I had first come here, I looked at the conference banner and I told myself as a junior, senior in high school, like I want to put our year up there. Like that is my goal. And being able to make it to the tournament was something, only the big school does. Only the crazy good programs do. There's no way like we can do that. But actually seeing us do that and put it into action was kind of like we are that program.
Yeah.
We are definitely capable of doing this and we can continue doing this. And so going into like this year was kind of, okay, this is our goal. We're going to make it back here. And that's kind of how we went
What
with
happened?
it.
Yeah. And I feel like that's one of those things too where like last year, like you got to experience it and you're like, okay, I'm not gonna not let that happen again.
Right.
So what was that like this year, like beginning of the season, getting started in your preseason? What did you guys do differently? Or what did you guys just really work on to be like, okay, we're gonna make sure we get back to the regional tournament?
We definitely made sure we had lots of meetings of making sure we're all on the same page. Like if we're all not here to make a difference in ourselves and our program, then what are we doing? We need to push ourselves as a person and as a player, and it starts with everything that we do off the court that's unnoticed, right? Like we need to make sure we're taking care of our bodies, making sure we're eating properly, making sure we're getting enough sleep, we're studying and taking care of our school before we can step on the court so we can compartmentalize like what needs to be done. And then when we're on the court, making sure we're extremely present and just doing it for ourselves and our teammates.
Yeah. All right. So this year, just kind of walk us through the season. Like, what was it like? I know that this season your team faced a lot of adversity. You faced a lot of different injuries throughout the season. So what was it like and what did you guys do to make sure you could like end where you wanted to end, even though there was some like things that happened along the way?
Yeah, no, for sure. We made sure that as important as it is to get stronger and being healthy, we need to take those mental days off. So I remember vividly, we had Riley Cudnick go down with her injury after the Malone game. And Coach Riley looked at me and was like, okay, Nyia, what do we need? And I told her, we just need a day to just be together. We need a mental health. We need to, that night or the next day, we didn't have practice. We watched a movie all together. And that was something where we needed to just decompress and remember that we're here for each other. Like, yes, we're here to play volleyball, but we need to take care of ourselves first mentally. And that's something that we really had to focus on this season because of all of the injuries going on, is just to take a deep breath and take a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's so important. And I do think that's sometimes something that people like overlook, but that helps too, just to know that like you guys are so connected, not only on the court, but outside as well. So
Yes.
I think you can definitely tell that with your team. So throughout the season, getting ready like for the MEC tournament and then the regional tournament, what was that like for you whenever you're like, okay, like this is like crunch time, like this is when like everything that we've been working for shows? What was just like your mindset going into like postseason?
Yeah, no, we had been training, I mean, our whole preseason and during the season and conference and everything. All of these little games and practices have led up to this moment. We've been training so hard to just get out there and play.
Yeah.
That's kind of our big thing, is when we're out there, we have to trust our bodies. We've been playing this game even longer than the 4 years we've been doing this. We've been since we were little.
Yeah.
And since it was a dream, we've been pushing ourselves to be better. And so because at this point we know how to play volleyball, we know what we're doing, we just have to trust that our instincts will kick in and just play and have fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what was it like playing in, or just everything to do with the MEC tournament this year? Because I know we were here at practice and I was like watching the live stats and watching the game, and that was such a good game when you all played state, and then going all the way to 5 sets and then just coming up short at the very end. What do you think? Because I mean, like, we're all in athletics. We, I think, hate to lose more than anything else. But what do you think you can take from that game to carry over into next season?
That we are definitely all capable. We are like we all believe in each other and we all know that we can compete to the highest level. Like we are very elite athletes, and what takes us to that next level is just being able to stay together and finish it out. Like,
Yeah.
we saw in the first 2 sets how competitive and how much grit and perseverance we've had, and that showed through the rest of the season we even had. It's just that little hump of, okay, we just need to push ourselves, get through this hump, and even if it doesn't look pretty, we just got to get this done. And that's definitely going to be the focus going into next season, is just let's get this done now.
Yeah, I like that. So then after the MEC tournament, whenever you all had your selection show out in the gym, what was that like whenever everything that you guys had been working for was actually like right in front of you, whenever you saw West Liberty volleyball selected to make it to the regional?
No, it was amazing. We, like, again, have been working so hard for this moment, and I wasn't ready to be done with our season yet. And being able to see that we had one more shot left, that was just a relief. Like, we have an opportunity to be up on a stage and just show what our program was all about. And again, like, all the little things that we've been working for. And it's just a surreal feeling seeing that on TV we have our name coming up, and it's an honor to put on a West Liberty shirt or West Liberty jersey and show what we represent.
Yeah. So then you have one more year left, right?
I do, yes.
So then just coming off of everything so far that you've experienced in your time playing here, what do you, I guess, really have that you want to work on, or what is your mindset going into this off season and training this spring to be ready for your last season next fall?
I want to be stronger than ever, right? This next season is my last, and I want to make it my best. So I'm going, especially with my team, I want to push my team to be the best it can be, whether that be in the weight room or in the classroom or on the court. I want this last season just to leave a legacy with the other girls coming in, and I want to show them that we don't just want to make it to the NCAA tournament. We want to at least win a set.
Yeah.
We want to go to the championship game in the MEC and maybe take that title. We want to win the MEC North. Like, with what I have left here, I'm hoping that I inspire these girls to just keep going with what we're trying to build here.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so I want to ask you this too. You play libero.
Yes.
You're two-time MEC Libero of the Year. Have you always played that position, or like how did you start playing that?
I knew that I was smaller. I definitely knew I wasn't going to be a middle growing up. I actually was a setter back at my California days at Club Solano, and then just when I had moved to Michigan, my coaches were telling me how, unfortunately, I'm not tall enough to be a setter. So they thought my skill set would be much more appreciated as a libero. So I said, okay, you know what, we'll work with that. I can definitely do that. And then I had just kind of stuck with that. I had played basketball back in the day when I was in 6th grade, and I remember my last practice, and I said, you know what, I love volleyball more, and that's kind of where I wanted to stick with. And yeah, no, libero. I actually at club I played middle back a lot during my time there, and Coach Riley actually recruited me out of middle back, and I had only been left back being here. So it's kind of crazy how the positions just changed just a little bit. But yeah.
Yeah.
It's
No,
amazing.
that's so cool. So I also saw where you were selected as a 2023 Student Athlete Demonstrator Scholarship recipient for the AVCA convention this year. Will you just like tell me a little bit about that, what you're going to do, how that came about, just everything about that?
Yeah, so I had actually been really interested in playing pro after my time here, and Coach Riley had a couple connections to reaching out, and this offer had popped up, and I had to apply for a scholarship, and I kind of talked about my purpose and how I want to inspire people to use volleyball as an outlet. Like, I've been very fortunate for volleyball to be that resource for me to decompress when life just gets a little much, and I can just take a second to decompress. And I was very fortunate and blessed to receive a scholarship. And yeah, so it's really an opportunity for people who aspire to coach or potentially take their competition to the next level. And there is, I think they said, like a couple thousand coaches that get to represent, and they show the different drills that they do with their programs. And I'm basically a demonstrator, and I get to perform and kind of walk through the drills that they want to offer. And throughout the time that I get to be there, I get to go to different vendors and kind of introduce myself and figure out what else I want to do with my coaching or volleyball career. And yeah.
That's really cool. So like are coaches going to like learn about different drills and different things and you're like the one physically
Performing
Yeah.
them. Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
that is so cool, and I feel like that's so helpful too for like people to get to go and watch that.
Exactly, right. And they have a bunch of other conventions where you get to see coaches getting awarded, or the All-Americans of the D1 schools and everything get awarded. And it's kind of a really amazing opportunity just to see all this
Yeah,
going down
that'll be so cool. And then where's that at?
in Tampa.
Okay, so you get to like travel down and do all of that?
Yes, yeah.
That's gonna be so awesome.
I'm really excited.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you can think of or anything else volleyball related that's maybe come to mind as we've been talking about it all?
Yeah, it's just volleyball is definitely a game of being yourself, and you've got to work with other girls to get to where you want to be. And it's such a team-oriented sport, and I want to share that as much as we want to be perfect to make sure we get that point or the next 2 points, that it's okay to take a second and give yourself grace. Like we, especially as female athletes, we want to do so much to better ourselves and do it for our team, but it's also good to take a second, take a deep breath, and just tell yourself it's going to be okay.
Yeah. And just like be able to enjoy it and take it all in.
Yes, absolutely.
No, I love that. All right. So switching out of like athletics for a little bit, I did want to ask you about school. So what is your major?
I am studying environmental stewardship with a minor in business.
Okay, like what is that?
Yeah. So the end goal is kind of sustainability. So I'd like to stay in corporate. I'm not necessarily your zookeeper or your park ranger, but I definitely like to stay in the business world and try and figure out ways where we can be more sustainable in our choices, but also making sure our economy is still balanced.
That is so cool. And so then you're planning on graduating, when is it?
In 2024 of fall.
Okay. So you're going to play your last season and then graduate right after that?
Yep.
Okay, that's perfect how that worked out.
Oh, yeah.
So I know that you did mention just a little bit ago that you are maybe interested in continuing to play volleyball as long as you could, but do you have any other just like brief plans for either like more schooling, job-wise, or just kind of taking it day by day?
We're just kind of taking it day by day. I know I will be working for the rest of my life, and I just want to take in these last few volleyball days as much as I can.
No, I think that's smart. Definitely don't have to like rush into anything. You can take your time and decide. Well, now that like it's December and season is finished up right now and we're finished up with finals, what maybe are the things that you like to do or any like hobbies that you could find yourself doing whenever you are taking a break from school and volleyball?
Yeah, no, I actually love staying active. Especially in the spring, you'll see me running a lot. I use that as my outlet to just focus on my breathing, because that's the one activity where I am forced to focus on slowing down my breath, and that's kind of my meditation. And whether that's listening to podcasts or listening to music, and I use that to just be myself. But yeah.
Nice. So now we're to one of my favorite parts of the podcast. We're gonna do rapid fire, and since this is coming out in December, we got to do some like Christmas holiday themed rapid fire questions. So when it comes to Christmas morning, how early do you get up?
It used to be like 7 a.m. Now we've definitely cruised into like 9:30, 10 a.m.
Sleeping in a little bit more?
Oh, yeah.
So whenever you do get up, do you dress up for Christmas or do you just hang out in your pajamas all day?
My mom has definitely got us matching Christmas pajamas. So that's the tradition now, is we all have to match in our Christmas pajamas.
I love that. Would you prefer a white Christmas or a warm Christmas?
Now that I live in Michigan, I definitely have to say I would love a white Christmas. Have we gotten that every year? Definitely not. But yeah.
Would you prefer Christmas music or Christmas movies?
Ooh, I would have to say, I would say Christmas movies.
Nice. And then do you have like a favorite Christmas decoration?
I love seeing the lights. I'm a sucker for Christmas lights and big houses and all that.
Yeah, I love that too. All right, so for the last question, I always close every single episode with the same question. Um, if you could go back in time to your freshman move-in day, what would you tell yourself then based off of what you know now?
I would say be patient with yourself. Like, things will come your way. I like to tell myself that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely stressed out about making my mark, and especially going in as COVID. Like, what is going to happen? Is this going to be the rest of my life? Like, is there going to be an end to this? What is a normal season going to look like, even as a student? Like, what is going to be everything? And I just want to tell myself that everything happens for a reason, and it's going to work out. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, so true. I love that. All right. Well, thank you so much for being today's guest on the podcast. I loved having you, and I'm so excited for
Thank
everyone
you
to
so much
watch.
for having me.
Of course. All right. Well, we have a few more sporting events before Christmas. This Sunday, the wrestling team competes at home in the Hilltopper Duels. Our men's basketball team is traveling to Daytona, Florida this weekend to play Dominican out of New York on Sunday and Angelo State on Monday. The women's basketball team is at Ashland on Monday. And then jumping ahead to after Christmas, men's basketball will be back home on December 30th against UVA Wise. Make sure again that you follow WLU Athletics on all social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Follow the Locker Room Podcast on Instagram and subscribe to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you don't miss any of our episodes or our updates and announcements. Thank you so much again for listening to today's episode and for listening to all of our episodes so far. We are going to take a 2-week break from new episodes for the holidays, but we will be back after the new year with new athletes and new stories. Thank you again for listening, and I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we will be back in 2024.